Tom lived in a city that never rested. Cars moved in endless lines, people rushed with phones in their hands, and bright lights filled every street. Yet even in that busy world, Tom often felt alone. He was not unhappy, but he was not excited either. His days were the same: go to work, return home, eat dinner, sleep, and repeat. Sometimes he wondered if his life would ever change. There was one small thing that broke the cycle. Every day on his walk back from work, Tom passed by a quiet park that rested between tall office buildings. In that park, there was a wooden bench near a fountain. And almost every evening, a girl sat there. She always wore the same gray hoodie, the hood pulled up so low that her face was hard to see. She kept her hands in her pockets and rarely looked up. Sometimes she wrote in a notebook, other times she just sat still, watching the world around her. Tom noticed her weeks ago, and soon it became a habit to glance at her whenever he walked by. She never seemed to change. Always quiet, always still. To Tom, she looked like any ordinary girl who simply preferred to be alone. Yet something about her made him curious. Maybe it was the way she never missed a day, no matter if it was sunny, cloudy, or cold. Maybe it was the way her stillness seemed almost unnatural in a city full of rushing people. One evening, the sky darkened suddenly. Thick clouds rolled in, and heavy rain poured down before Tom could even pull out his umbrella. The streets emptied quickly as people ran for shelter. Tom dashed into the park and spotted the only covered place nearby, the small roof above the bench where the hoodie girl sat. She was already there, sitting as calm as always, even as rain pounded on the fountain and splashed on the ground. Tom hesitated for a moment. He did not want to bother her, but the rain was heavy, and he had no choice. He stepped under the roof, water dripping from his hair and coat. She turned her head slightly, just enough to glance at him from beneath her hood. Her eyes were hidden in shadow, but Tom felt the weight of her gaze. Then she looked away, as if she did not care he was there at all. "Sorry," Tom said with an awkward smile. "Rain came faster than I expected." She did not answer at first. She only kept her gaze on the falling rain. After a moment, she gave a small nod, almost too small to notice. Tom wondered if she was shy, or if she simply did not like talking. He decided not to push too much. He pulled out his phone and pretended to check messages, though he really had none. The rain grew heavier, drumming on the roof above them. Tom felt the silence stretch. For some reason, he wanted to say something more. Maybe because he had always wondered about this girl. Maybe because sitting together under the same small roof made it impossible to ignore her. "You sit here often, don't you?" Tom asked. His tone was careful, not wanting to sound rude. "I pass by here most days, and I think I have seen you before." This time she shifted slightly, her head tilting just enough to show that she was listening. After a pause, she gave a soft answer. "Yes." Her voice was quiet, almost musical, but with an odd tone that Tom could not place. It was not an accent he recognized. It sounded smooth, but there was something different about it, something that made her words linger in his ears. Tom felt encouraged. "Do you live nearby?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. No, her answers were short, but not unfriendly. Tom realized she was not ignoring him. She simply spoke little. Still, her presence was strange. She was calm in a way that most people were not. Even with rain pouring and thunder echoing in the sky, she sat perfectly still, like none of it mattered. Tom decided to change his approach. "I'm Tom," he said. He gave a small smile, hoping she would share her name. The girl was silent for a long moment. The rain filled the pause, louder than before. Finally, she spoke. Myra. Tom repeated the name in his head. Myra. Simple and gentle. He liked the way it sounded. Nice to meet you, Myra, he said. She gave the smallest nod again but did not add anything else. Tom wondered if that was all he would get. Yet something about this small exchange felt important. For weeks he had seen her as a shadow on a bench, a silent figure under a hood. Now she had a name. Myra. They sat together as the rain continued. Tom tried to think of more things to say, but words felt heavy. He noticed her hands, resting in her pockets, never moving. He noticed how her shoulders never shifted, as if she could sit there for hours without feeling stiff. Most people would fidget, tap their foot, or check their phone. But Myra sat as if she was carved from stone, except for the small movements when she chose to respond. Tom felt his curiosity grow stronger. Who was this girl? Why did she spend every evening here? Why did she speak so little, yet with a voice that sounded unusual? He wanted to ask, but he held back. It would be rude to push too far on the first real meeting. The rain began to slow, the drops becoming lighter. People returned to the streets, hurrying home. Tom realized he would soon need to leave too. He stood up and looked at Myra. She remained seated, still hidden beneath her hood. Well, Tom said, I guess I should go before it gets too late. It was nice to meet you, Myra. For a moment, he thought she would not answer. Then, softly, she said, Goodbye, Tom. He smiled at her reply, then stepped out into the damp street. The rain had left the city shining, lights reflecting on wet pavement. As Tom walked home, he kept thinking about the girl on the bench. She had seemed ordinary at first, just another stranger in the crowd. But after today, he felt certain there was more to her. Something hidden, something unusual. He could not explain why, but he knew this was not the last time he would wonder about her. The next day, Tom thought often about the girl named Myra. He told himself it was nothing special, just a small meeting during the rain, yet her quiet presence stayed in his mind. On his way home, he passed the park again. As expected, Myra was there, sitting on the same bench with her hood pulled up. Tom slowed his steps. He wondered if he should approach her again. He did not want to disturb her, but curiosity pushed him forward. He walked closer and gave a small wave. Hello again, he said. Myra looked at him from under her hood. For a moment she said nothing, then she gave a soft reply. Hello, Tom. Tom felt a small warmth inside. She remembered his name. That meant something. He sat down on the far end of the bench, leaving enough space between them so she would not feel uncomfortable. The park was quieter today. The rain had washed the air clean, and the sky was bright. Children played near the fountain, and an old man fed pigeons. Myra watched it all with steady eyes, as if she studied every detail. Tom noticed how focused she looked. She did not glance around like most people. Her gaze stayed sharp and unbroken. It was almost as if she was collecting information. You come here every day, don't you? Tom asked. Yes, Myra answered softly. Why this place? He asked again. There are many parks in the city. Myra's hood shifted slightly as she tilted her head. This place is quiet. I like to watch. Tom waited for her to add more, but she fell silent again. He tried to read her, but it was not easy. She was calm, almost too calm. Even her hands, still in her pockets, did not move. As the minutes passed, Tom began to notice small details that unsettled him. Myra never blinked as often as normal people. Her eyes stayed open for long periods, then blinked once with smooth precision. When a bird flew suddenly across the fountain, Tom flinched at the sound of wings, but Myra did not move at all. She seemed prepared for everything around her. Tom told himself it was nothing, but the thought would not leave his head. She was different. He decided to test her without being rude. He tapped the bench softly with his finger, making a quick rhythm. Myra's head turned at once toward the sound. Her reaction was too fast, sharper than any person he had met. Then she looked away again, as if nothing happened. Tom felt a chill, though the sun was warm. "Do you live with family?" he asked, trying to keep the conversation light. "No," Myra replied. Her answer was short, but there was a faint sadness in her tone. Tom did not press further. He sensed she would not tell him much if he asked too directly. Instead, he tried another path. "Do you go to school? Or maybe work nearby?" Myra shook her head. "I do not." Tom smiled awkwardly. "Then you must have a lot of free time." Myra gave no reply to that. Instead, her eyes followed a child chasing a ball across the grass. She studied the movement with the same sharp focus as before. Tom watched her and felt again that strange thought. She did not look like a student or a worker. She looked like someone observing the world for the first time. As the afternoon passed, Tom grew more curious. He wanted to understand her, but every answer only raised more questions. Why did she react so fast to sounds? Why did she sit so still? Why did she seem more like an observer than a participant in the world around her? He finally decided to take a small risk. "Myra," he said carefully, "you are not like most people, are you?" Her head turned toward him, slow and deliberate. For a moment, her eyes caught the sunlight, and Tom thought he saw a faint shimmer, a reflection too bright for ordinary eyes. Then she looked away again. "You see too much," Myra said softly. Her words made Tom's heart beat faster. He wanted to ask what she meant, but her tone warned him to stop. She was not angry, but there was weight in her voice, as if she carried a secret too heavy to share. The silence grew between them. Tom tried to relax, but his mind raced. He thought about her voice, her stillness, her strange way of watching. She seemed ordinary to others, just a quiet girl in a hoodie. Yet to him, she felt like a mystery waiting to unfold. As evening approached, Myra stood up. Her movements were smooth, without hesitation. She looked at Tom and gave a single nod. "Goodbye." Tom stood as well. "Will I see you tomorrow?" Myra paused before answering. "Yes." Then she walked away, her steps steady and silent. Tom watched her go. Even her walk was unusual. Each step was measured, as if she was trained to move without wasting energy. On his way home, Tom could not stop thinking about her. Myra seemed ordinary on the surface, but his instincts told him there was more. She was hiding something. Something that made her different from everyone else in the city. That night, Tom lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He told himself not to get too carried away. She was just a girl, nothing more. Yet deep down, he knew he had seen signs. Small signs, but clear ones. Myra was not ordinary, no matter how much she tried to appear so. Tom closed his eyes and thought of her words. You see too much. He wondered what truth lay behind them. The next day, Tom felt restless at work. He tried to focus on his tasks, but his mind kept wandering back to the girl in the park. Myra's calm eyes, her quiet voice, and her strange words stayed in his thoughts. You see too much. What did she mean by that? He wanted answers, but he knew she guarded her secrets closely. When evening came, Tom walked to the park again. The fountain sparkled in the fading light, and as always, Myra sat on the same bench. She looked the same as before, her hood pulled low, her hands in her pockets, her body still as stone. Tom walked up with a friendly smile. Hello again, he said. Myra gave him a soft glance. Hello, Tom. He sat beside her, leaving space between them. For a while, they watched the park in silence. Families were leaving, children were being gathered by their parents, and the sun dipped lower. The air grew cooler, and a light wind began to move through the trees. Tom wanted to speak but could not find the right words. Instead, he looked at Myra, trying to read her hidden face under the shadow of her hood. He thought about how little he knew about her, and yet how much he wanted to know. The wind grew stronger. Leaves scattered across the grass, and the fountain's water rippled. Suddenly, a sharp gust swept through the park. Myra's hood was blown back before she could stop it. Tom froze. For the first time, he saw her face clearly. Her skin was smooth, but it was not like ordinary skin. Faint silver patterns glowed softly across her cheeks, lines that seemed alive, shifting like quiet rivers under her flesh. Her eyes were the most striking. They were not brown or blue or green. They shone with a deep silver light, bright yet soft, like starlight reflected in a calm lake. Tom could not move. His breath caught in his throat. Myra's beauty was strange, not human, not earthly. She was something else, something beyond what he had ever imagined. Myra's hand shot up, pulling the hood back over her head. She turned away quickly, as if ashamed. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Myra whispered, "You were not meant to see that." Tom swallowed hard. What are you?" Myra's shoulders stiffened. She did not answer right away. The wind calmed, and the park grew quiet again, but Tom's heart pounded like a drum. He had suspected she was different, but the truth was more than he could have guessed. "I am not like you," Myra said softly. "I am not from here." The words hit Tom like a wave. Not from here. The meaning was clear, and yet his mind struggled to accept it. "You mean, you're not human?" he asked. Myra kept her gaze on the ground. "I am not." Tom leaned back, trying to breathe. His thoughts raced. An alien. She was an alien, sitting here on a park bench in the middle of the city. He wanted to laugh, to deny it, but the silver glow in her eyes would not let him. It was real. "Why are you here?" Tom asked after a long silence. Myra turned slightly toward him, her face still hidden under the hood. "My ship was damaged. I had no choice but to hide here. I have been waiting, watching, learning. But I must not be seen. If others discover me, it will bring danger to your people." Tom tried to process her words. A part of him wanted to run, to escape the strangeness. But another part of him was filled with wonder. He had always felt his life was ordinary, but now he was speaking to someone from another world. "Why tell me?" Tom asked carefully. Myra's voice was calm, but heavy with meaning. "Because you saw. Because you ask questions others do not. I cannot erase what you know. I can only ask you to keep it. Tom nodded slowly. I will not tell anyone. Myra studied him for a moment. Her silver eyes glowed faintly under the shadow of her hood. I believe you, she said. They sat in silence again, but it was no longer the same silence. Now the air was charged, filled with a secret that no one else around them knew. Parents walked past with laughing children, joggers passed by with music in their ears, and none of them realized that on this bench sat a being from another world. Tom looked at Myra with new eyes. Her stillness, her sharp reactions, her strange way of watching everything, it all made sense now. She was not shy. She was not ordinary. She was studying humanity, learning to blend in. Is someone looking for you? Tom asked suddenly. Myra's body grew tense. She did not answer at first, and that silence told Tom everything. Finally, she said, yes. And if they find me, it will not be kind. Tom felt a chill. He wanted to ask who they were, what they wanted, but he could see that Myra did not want to speak of it. Her voice carried enough fear to make him stop. Instead, he said, then you are not safe here. No place is safe, Myra whispered. Not for me. But I stay hidden. That is enough. Tom looked at her, a girl who was not a girl, hiding under a hoodie on a park bench. She seemed fragile, yet she carried the weight of survival in every word. The sun set fully, leaving the park in shadows. Street lamps flickered on, casting pools of light across the paths. Myra stood up, pulling her hood tighter around her face. I must go, she said. Tom rose as well. He wanted to stop her, to ask more, but he held back. He could see she had already said more than she wished. Will I see you tomorrow? He asked. Myra hesitated. Then she gave a small nod. Yes. She walked away, her steps quiet and steady. Tom watched her until she disappeared into the shadows beyond the park. Alone on the bench, Tom sat for a moment longer. His world had changed in a single gust of wind. The girl he thought was ordinary had pulled back her hood, and everything he knew about life felt different. For the first time in years, Tom did not feel ordinary either. The next morning, Tom woke with little sleep. His mind replayed the image of Myra's face again and again. Those silver lines across her skin, the glow in her eyes, the quiet weight in her words. He had seen something no one else on earth had seen. She trusted him with a secret that could never be spoken aloud. At work, Tom could not focus. The noise of the office faded into the background. Numbers on his computer screen blurred. He only thought about the bench in the park and the girl who was not from this world. By evening, he hurried back to the park, as if pulled by something stronger than himself. Myra was there, sitting with her hood up as usual. She looked calm, yet Tom sensed something different. Maybe it was because he now knew what lay beneath the hood. She was not just a quiet girl anymore. She was a being from the stars. Tom sat beside her, careful as always to give her space. For a while, they watched the fountain together. The water sparkled in the late sun, and children's laughter echoed in the distance. To others, it was an ordinary evening. To Tom, it was a meeting with the impossible. I keep thinking about yesterday, Tom said softly. About what you showed me. Myra lowered her head slightly. I did not mean to show you. The wind forced me. I am glad it happened, Tom said. I would never have guessed, but now it makes sense. The way you move. The way you watch everything. I see it clearly now. Myra turned toward him, her silver eyes faintly visible under the hood. "And you are not afraid?" Tom shook his head. "No." "Surprised?" "Yes." "Curious?" "Very much." "But not afraid?" For a long moment, Myra studied him in silence. Then she spoke with a voice that carried both caution and relief. "Then I will tell you more. You deserve to know if you are to keep my secret." Tom leaned closer, his heart beating fast. This was the moment he had been waiting for. "My name is Myra," she began, "but that is the name I chose here. My true name is not one you can speak. I come from a place far beyond your world. A world with skies of silver and oceans of glass. We are travelers by nature, but my journey was not by choice. My ship was attacked before it reached its destination. I escaped in a small craft and landed here. This planet was not meant to be mine, but it gave me shelter." Tom listened in awe. Her words painted pictures in his mind: strange skies, glowing oceans, ships moving among the stars. "Why were you attacked?" he asked quietly. Myra's voice grew heavier. "There are those who hunt my kind. We carry knowledge, energy, things that others desire. They seek to capture us, to use us for their gain. I was alone, and so I became prey. My ship was struck, and I fled. I thought I had lost them, but I do not know if they will stop searching." A chill passed through Tom. "If they find you here," Myra nodded, "it will not end well. Not for me. Not for your people. They will not care who is harmed in their hunt." Tom sat back, trying to take it all in. A hunted alien, hiding in plain sight on a city bench. He wanted to laugh at how unbelievable it sounded, yet the truth was sitting right beside him. "How long have you been here?" Tom asked. "Many months," Myra said. "I have watched, learned, and adapted. I cover myself to hide my differences. I sit in this park because it allows me to study without drawing attention. Children play, families walk, life passes before me. I learn how your kind speaks, moves, and feels. I learn what it means to be human." Tom frowned. "But you are not just learning, are you? You are waiting for something." Myra gave a slow nod. "Yes. My craft lies hidden, damaged beyond my skill to repair. I wait to see if rescue will come, but I fear it may not. I am alone." Her words carried a loneliness that cut through Tom's chest. She was more than a visitor. She was stranded, abandoned by the universe, and forced to survive in silence. Tom wanted to reach out, to tell her she was not alone anymore. Instead, he said, "You are not invisible to me, Myra. You do not have to sit in silence forever." Myra turned her gaze toward him. The faint glow in her eyes softened. "Why do you care so much? You owe me nothing." Tom thought for a moment. "Because I have always felt ordinary. My life has been the same every day, with nothing special. But meeting you, seeing who you truly are, it makes me realize that maybe I can be part of something bigger. Maybe I can help." Myra's lips curved into the faintest of smiles, so small it was almost hidden. "Humans," she said softly, "are more complex than I expected." The sky darkened as evening fell. Lights flickered on across the park. Myra pulled her hood tighter, as if to remind herself she must remain hidden. "Tom," she said, her tone serious again, "you must understand the risk. If the hunters find me, they will bring danger to this place. If you stand near me, you will share that danger." Tom looked at her without hesitation. "Then let it be. I will not walk away." Myra studied him for a long time, her glowing eyes never leaving his. Finally, she gave a small nod. Very well. You have chosen. They sat together as the night grew deep. Around them, the city buzzed with life, unaware of the secret that rested on a simple bench. A boy who thought himself ordinary had discovered the truth of the stars, and an alien girl who thought herself alone had found someone willing to stay. For the first time since she arrived, Myra did not feel like a shadow. And for the first time in his life, Tom felt like his choices mattered. The city lived in its usual rhythm, but Tom began to notice small changes. Lights flickered in streets where the power had always been steady. Strange shapes moved in the distance at night, too quick to be animals, too large to be shadows. News reports spoke of missing pieces of equipment from factories and labs. None of it seemed connected to most people, but Tom felt the pattern. Something unusual was happening, and it was not random. He met Myra again in the park. She sat as always on her bench, but Tom could sense the tension in her body. Her hands stayed hidden in her pockets, yet her shoulders were stiff, and her eyes searched the park more carefully than before. She was no longer just observing humans. She was looking for something else. You feel it too, don't you? Tom asked quietly. Myra gave a slow nod. Yes. The signs are clear now. They are here. Tom's chest tightened. The hunters, yes, Myra whispered. They search for me. They can track my energy, even though I try to stay hidden. Every day they come closer. I hoped Earth would be too far, too small for them to care. I was wrong. Tom looked around. The park. Families laughed, joggers passed by, and no one had any idea of the danger. To them, the world was normal. To Tom and Myra, the shadow of the hunters stretched across the city. What will they do if they find you? Tom asked. Myra's eyes dimmed. Capture me. Use what I carry. And they will not stop at me. They will destroy anything that stands between us. Your people are not their concern. They will harm whoever they must. Tom clenched his fists. The thought of his city, his world, threatened by something from beyond the stars filled him with anger. He was just an ordinary man, but he could not stand by and watch. What can we do? He asked. Myra looked at him with calm eyes. You can walk away, Tom. Forget what you know. Let me face them alone. That is the safest choice for you. Tom shook his head at once. No, I will not leave you to fight this by yourself. You are not alone anymore. If they come, then we will face them together. Myra studied him for a long moment. Finally, she gave a slow nod. Then you must learn to think as they do. They have technology, power, and weapons. But you have something they cannot understand. Human unpredictability. Tom frowned. What do you mean? You adapt quickly, Myra said. You solve problems with creativity. My kind has studied you, but we do not fully understand the way you turn weakness into strength. That is what you can give me. Not power, but ideas. Tom felt a strange pride in her words. For the first time, he believed his ordinary mind could matter in a fight beyond Earth. That night, Tom and Myra walked through the city together. Myra led him to an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. Inside, hidden under old tarps and broken crates, lay pieces of strange metal and fragments of a small craft. This is what remains of my ship, Myra explained. I cannot repair it fully, but I can use parts of it. With your help, I can build traps. I can create signals to mislead them. We cannot defeat them in battle, but we can make them lose their way. Tom examined the pieces. They were unlike anything he had ever seen, glowing faintly with light that shifted in colors he could not name. He felt nervous touching them, but Myra guided him carefully. Together, they arranged the fragments into devices that hummed softly. As they worked, Tom asked, "How soon will they come?" Myra's voice was steady, but her eyes were sharp. "They are already here. I can feel them moving closer each day. They will search the city piece by piece until they find me. We must stay ahead of them." Over the next few days, strange events spread wider. People reported hearing low humming in the night. Whole blocks lost power without warning. Animals fled from certain areas, barking and crying at shadows no one else could see. Tom knew these were signs of the hunters moving through the city, testing, searching. One evening, as Tom walked home, he felt the hairs on his neck rise. He turned and saw a tall figure standing at the far end of the street. The figure was too still, too silent, its outline blurred in the dim light. Before Tom could blink, the figure melted into the shadows and vanished. He hurried to the park and told Myra. She listened carefully, her face grave. "They are close now. They test the edges of my hiding place. Soon they will strike directly." Tom felt fear but also determination. "Then we will be ready." Myra nodded. "Yes. You and I, human courage and alien knowledge. Together." That night, they tested one of the devices they had built. Myra explained that it would release a false signal, something that would confuse the hunters and draw them away from her true location. Tom helped set it up near the industrial district. When it activated, the air shimmered faintly, and a low pulse spread out across the city. Not long after, distant crashes echoed in the night, followed by the sound of alarms. Myra's plan had worked. The hunters had followed the false signal, leaving the park safe for now. Tom and Myra watched from a rooftop, the city lights reflecting in Myra's silver eyes. Tom felt a strange mix of fear and triumph. For the first time, he believed they had a chance. "They are strong," Myra said softly, "but not unstoppable. You give me hope, Tom." Hope I had lost. Tom looked at her and felt something stir inside him. He was just one man, yet he was standing beside someone from another world, and together they were protecting his city. He no longer felt ordinary. But even as victory touched his heart, Tom knew the fight was only beginning. The hunters were clever, and they would not be fooled for long. Soon they would come with greater force, and when they did, Tom and Myra would have to stand firm. For now, though, they had won a small battle. The night belonged to them, and the hunters were kept at bay. The city lights sparkled below as Tom stood on the rooftop beside Myra. The hum of traffic drifted upward, but beneath that normal rhythm of life, he could feel the tension of something unseen. The hunters were still out there. They had been misled once by the false signal, but Tom knew they would not be fooled twice. Myra's silver eyes scanned the skyline. "They learn quickly," she said. "Each time they fail, they adapt. We must stay ahead, or they will close the distance." Tom crossed his arms. "Then we need more than tricks. We need a plan that uses the city itself. They may have power, but this is my world. I know its streets and corners better than they ever will." Myra looked at him with quiet respect. "Your knowledge is our strength. Tell me what you see." Tom thought hard. He pictured the alleys, the bridges, the underground tunnels. He thought about the abandoned factories and the power plants on the edge of town. His mind raced with possibilities. "If they want you, we should lead them where we want them. We set traps along the way. Step by step, we make them weaker. Myra listened, her head tilted in thought. Yes. Like a maze. They will not expect humans to fight with strategy. They will see us as weak prey. That will be their mistake. Over the next days, Tom and Myra worked together in secret. Using the fragments of Myra's craft, they built small devices that could create illusions, bursts of sound, or flashes of light. None of them could defeat the hunters, but they could confuse them and buy time. Tom also gathered supplies from his world. He brought old tools, wires, batteries, and even firecrackers. Myra was surprised at first, but Tom explained. We don't have alien weapons. But sometimes, simple things can change the fight. Noise, light, surprise. Those can be just as powerful. Myra smiled faintly. You see the world in ways my people do not. That is why you are dangerous to them. One night, as they finished placing devices near the old train yard, a sharp sound echoed in the distance. It was not the sound of a car or a machine. It was too deep, too unnatural. Myra stiffened at once. They are moving, she whispered. They come this way. Tom's heart pounded, but he forced himself to stay calm. Then we test our plan. The first trap was a simple one. As the hunters entered the yard, Myra activated a device that filled the air with thick mist. The fog spread quickly, hiding everything more than a few feet away. At the same time, Tom set off firecrackers. The sharp cracks echoed through the mist, making it impossible to tell where the sound came from. Tom and Myra moved silently along the edge of the yard, watching shadows shift inside the fog. The hunters were tall, their outlines faintly glowing as they scanned the area. They moved like predators, smooth and careful. But the mist blinded them, and the noise scattered their senses. Myra leaned close to Tom. They are confused. Good. We moved to the next trap. They slipped through the darkness and reached the factory district. Tom had rigged old pipes to release bursts of steam when triggered. As the hunters followed, the pipes screamed with sudden hisses, filling the air with hot vapor. The hunters staggered, their glow flickering as they struggled to see. For the first time, Tom saw them falter. A surge of hope rose inside him. It's working, he whispered. They're not unstoppable. They can make mistakes. Myra's gaze stayed steady. Do not underestimate them. They will recover quickly. And she was right. The hunters soon adjusted, their movements sharper, their scanning beams cutting through the steam. But Tom and Myra had already moved to the third trap. Near the bridge, Tom had placed a device Myra had built from her ship's fragments. When triggered, it created a false energy signal, one strong enough to feel like Myra's own presence. The hunters rushed toward it at once, their focus locked on the bait. Hidden nearby, Tom watched them gather around the signal. Their heads tilted, their glowing eyes scanning the empty spot. The sight of them fooled gave him courage. But then one of the hunters stopped. Slowly, its head turned toward Tom's hiding place. The false signal had worked, but the hunters were learning again. Tom's heart leapt. He whispered urgently, Myra, they're coming this way. Myra pressed her hand to the ground. The device beneath her palm pulsed with light. Then we use the last trap. The ground shook as a sudden burst of energy exploded between the hunters and the humans. The shock wave knocked the hunters back, scattering them across the bridge. Myra pulled Tom to his feet, and together they ran into the night. When they finally stopped, hidden in an alley, Tom was gasping for breath. His body shook with fear and exhaustion. But his eyes were bright. We did it. We outsmarted them. Myra's face was calm, but her voice carried quiet pride. Yes. You showed them what it means to be human. You turned the city into your weapon. They will not forget this night. Tom leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. But they're still out there. They'll come again. Myra nodded. They will. Stronger and more determined. But they have seen something new. They have seen that humans are not helpless. That may change everything. For the first time since meeting Myra, Tom felt the weight of what they were doing. This was not just about protecting one alien girl. It was about showing beings from another world that humanity had spirit, courage, and cleverness beyond their understanding. Myra looked at him with quiet intensity. You stood when you could have run. You chose danger when you could have chosen safety. That is what makes you different, Tom. That is what makes your kind dangerous to the hunters. Tom straightened, his fear slowly turning into determination. He was no longer just an ordinary man. He was part of something larger, a fight that stretched across worlds. And he would not back down. Above them, the night sky glittered with stars. Somewhere beyond those stars, the hunter's masters waited. But here on Earth, Tom and Myra stood together. Human courage and alien knowledge, side by side. The city had never seemed quieter than it did that night. The streets were empty, and the wind whispered through the tall buildings. Tom and Myra waited in the abandoned warehouse, the air heavy with tension. Every sound outside made their hearts race. The hunters had found their trail. There was no more time for preparation. Myra moved silently among the scattered fragments of her ship, checking the devices they had set. Each one was ready to create illusions, bursts of light, or false signals. She glanced at Tom. This is it. They will not give up, and we must be ready for everything. Tom nodded. His hands were steady, though his chest thumped with fear and excitement. We've done all we can. Now we just have to be smart and fast. A low hum began outside. It grew louder, vibrating through the walls. The hunters were near. Tom's pulse quickened as he moved to the corner of the warehouse. Myra placed a small hand on his shoulder. Remember what we practiced. Trust your instincts. They may be stronger, but human courage and cleverness can surprise them. The warehouse doors burst open, and the hunters entered. Their forms were taller than humans, their glowing eyes scanning the room. Each step they took was precise and calculated. Tom felt a chill, but he did not move. He stayed where he was, waiting. Myra whispered, "Now." Immediately, the first device activated. Light flashed and shadows danced across the walls. The hunters reacted, stepping back and trying to locate the source. Tom took the chance to move along the side of the room, pulling wires and pressing buttons as Myra had taught him. The traps triggered in sequence. Alarms rang, smoke poured out, and false signals blinked across the floor. The hunters roared, a sound that was both mechanical and alive. They adjusted quickly, moving in patterns that suggested intelligence beyond human understanding. Yet each step they took played into the traps. Myra guided Tom, showing him where to move, which devices to activate, and when to stay hidden. One of the hunters stepped closer to Myra. Tom could see its glowing hand reach for her. Without hesitation, he activated a burst of light from one of the devices near the entrance. The hunter recoiled, blinded for a few moments. Myra used the opportunity to dash across the warehouse, moving with grace and speed that seemed beyond human limits. Tom's heart pounded. He realized that his ordinary instincts, the small clever choices he had learned from living in a city, were as valuable as Myra's alien abilities. He guided her through the warehouse, triggering more traps and creating obstacles that slowed the hunters. The hunters recovered quickly, their movements faster and more precise. One of them lunged toward Tom. He ducked, grabbed a heavy pipe, and swung it to block the hunter's path. Sparks flew as the pipe struck the hunter's armor, and the creature staggered but did not fall. Tom realized that while courage was important, cleverness and timing were just as necessary. Myra paused for a moment, her silver eyes glowing faintly under the shadows. "There is one final device," she said. "It is small, but powerful. It can force them to retreat if we use it correctly. I need you to stay close and protect me while I activate it." Tom nodded. His fear had not disappeared, but it was mixed with determination. "I will not let them reach you." They moved to the center of the warehouse. Myra placed her hand on the device. Energy pulsed through the floor, and a soft hum filled the air. The hunters sensed it immediately, and their glowing eyes turned toward the device. They moved faster, aiming to destroy it before it could activate fully. Tom stepped in front of Myra. "You cannot pass," he shouted, his voice steady. The hunters hesitated for a moment, confused by the boldness of a single human standing in their way. With a sharp motion, Myra activated the device. Light exploded outward, bright and intense, filling the warehouse with energy. The hunters roared and recoiled, blinded and disoriented. Sparks flew, shadows twisted, and the warehouse shook from the pulse of the energy. Tom grabbed Myra's hand and pulled her back to safety. The hunters staggered, their advanced forms struggling against the burst. They tried to push forward, but the energy from the device forced them back. Slowly, they retreated, leaving the warehouse in silence. Tom and Myra stood in the center, catching their breath. The danger was not completely gone, but the hunters had been forced to retreat. They had won the battle, at least for now. Myra looked at Tom with a quiet smile. "You did it. You were brave, quick, and clever. Without your courage, this would not have worked." Tom shook his head. "No. We did it together. Your knowledge, your devices, and my small ideas, they all mattered." For a moment, they simply stood, looking around the warehouse. The night outside was calm, the city unaware of the battle that had taken place. Tom realized how different his life had become. He had faced beings from another world, and he had survived. He had helped protect Myra and, in some small way, his city. Myra stepped closer. "I will never forget this, Tom. You have shown me that even a human can face danger with courage. That is something my kind rarely sees." Tom smiled, though exhaustion weighed on him. "I will never forget it either. Meeting you changed everything." The stars above sparkled in the clear night sky. Somewhere beyond them, other hunters might still exist, but for now, the city was safe. Tom understood that the fight might continue another day, but he felt ready. Courage, intelligence, and loyalty had triumphed tonight. Myra's silver eyes reflected the starlight. "You are extraordinary, Tom. Do not forget that. Even ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they stand together." Tom nodded. He felt proud, not because he had fought, but because he had chosen to stand for something greater. He had chosen courage over fear, action over hesitation. And in doing so, he had proven that humanity was stronger than the hunters had ever imagined. They left the warehouse together, moving silently through the streets. The city seemed alive again, ordinary and peaceful. No one would know the danger that had passed, but Tom and Myra carried the memory of the night within them. For the first time, Tom felt that his ordinary life had transformed into something meaningful. He had discovered bravery he never knew existed, and he had learned that even in the face of beings far stronger than humans, courage, loyalty, and cleverness could turn the tide. And Myra, who had once believed herself alone, now knew that she had a friend, an ally, and a human who could stand beside her against anything. The night faded into early dawn, and the city began to stir. Tom and Myra watched from a rooftop, the world beneath them calm and beautiful. They had faced impossible odds, yet they had prevailed. The stars above seemed brighter, as if acknowledging the courage of two beings from different worlds, united in a single purpose.